أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل آمنا بالله وما أنزل علينا وما أنزل على إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط وما أوتي موسى وعيسى والنبيون من ربهم لا نفرق بين أحد منهم ونحن له مسلمون. ومن يبتغ غير الإسلام دينا فلن يقبل منه وهو في الآخرة من الخاسرين.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. First of all, I thank you very much for your question. I welcome you as a brother and would be pleased to answer to any question in respect. Mr. Paul Robert Chaya. So, this gives me a great pleasure. Your question is like this. I have Mr. Munir Ahmad Azim, you have made your proclamation as the prophets and the Messiah of this era. So why there is so many religions who claim that to be in the right way? I want your answer. Thank you very much. So my replies is like this. There are so many sects, cults, religions, philosophies, and movements in the world, all of which claim to be the right way or the only true path to Allah, to God. How can one determine which one is correct or whether, in fact, all are correct? One method which as an answer can be found is to clear away the superficial differences in the teaching of the various claimants to the ultimate truth and identify the central object of worship upon which they call, directly or indirectly. First, religions all have in common one basic concept with regard to God. They either claim that all men are gods, or that a specific man were God, or that nature is God, or that God is a figment of man's imagination. Thus, it may be stated that the basic message of false religion is that God may be worshipped in the form of His creation. False religion invites men to the worship of creation by calling the creation or some aspect of it God. For example, I give you an example. Prophet Jesus. In Islam, we call him Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, Prophet Jesus. Invite his followers to worship God. But those who claim to be Jesus followers today call people to worship Jesus, claiming that he was God. Another example, Buddha. The Prophet Buddha was a reformer who introduced a number of humanistic principles in the religions of India. He did not claim to be God, nor did he suggest to his followers that he be an object of worship. Yet today, most Buddhists who are to be found outside of India have taken him to be God, and they prostrate themselves to idols made in their perception of his likeness. By using the principle of identifying the object of worship, we can easily detect false religions and the contrived nature of their origin, as God said in the Holy Quran. In the Holy Quran, God said, "That which you worship beside Him are only names. You and your forefathers have invented for which God has sent down no authority. The command belongs only to God. He has commanded that you worship Him. That is a right religion, but most men do not understand." This verse found in chapter 12, verses 41, 40 or 41. It may be argued that all religions teach good things. So why should it matter which one we follow? The reply is that all false religions teach the greatest evil, the worship of creation. Creation worship is the greatest sin that man can commit because it contradicts the very purpose of his creation. Man was created to worship God alone, as Allah, as God has explicitly stated in the Holy Quran. In chapter 51, verses 56 or 57, God said that I have only created jinns and men that they may worship me. So consequently, the worship of creation, which is the essence of idolatry, is the only unforgivable sin. One who dies in this state of idolatry has sealed his fate in the next life. This is not an opinion, but a revealed fact stated by God in His final revelation to man. When we study the Holy Quran, we'll see in chapter 4, verses 48 and 116, where God says, "Verily God will not forgive the joining of partners with Him, but He may forgive sins, less than that for whomsoever He wishes." So, since the consequences of following a false religion are so grave, the true religion of God must have been universally understandable and universally attainable in the past, and it must continue eternally to be understandable and attainable throughout the entire world. In other words, Mr. Robert Paul, in other words, the true religions of God cannot be confined to any one people, place, or period of time. Nor is it logical that such a religion should impose conditions that fail nothing to do with the relationship of man with God, such as baptism, bat, baptism, here in Creole called baptism, or believe in man as a Savior, or God betweens, or go betweens. So, within the central principle of Islam and its definition, the surrender of one's will to God, lies the roots of Islam's universality. Whenever man comes to the realization that God is one and distinct from his creation and submit himself to God, he becomes a Muslim in body and in spirit and is eligible for paradise. Consequently, anyone at any time in the most remote region, of the world can become a Muslim, a follower of God's religion, Islam, by merely rejecting the worship of creation and turning to God alone. It should be noted, however, that in order to actually submit to God's will, one must continually choose between right and wrong. Indeed, man is endowed by God with a power not only to distinguish right from wrong, but also to choose between them. These God-given powers carry with them an important responsibility, namely that man is answerable to God for the choices he makes. It follows then that man should try his uttermost to do good and avoid evil. These concepts are expressed in the final revelation as follows, always in the Holy Quran, where God says, "Verily, those who believe that is in the Holy Quran, in the Quran, and those who follow the Jewish faith and the Christians and the Sabians, angels and star worshippers, any of these who believe in Allah, in God, and the last day and work righteousness shall have their reward with their Lord. They will not be overcome by fear or grief. This is found in chapter 2, verses perhaps 62 or 63, like this. So, my dear brothers, if for whatever reason they fail to accept the final message after it has been clearly explained to them, they will be in grave danger. The seals of the Prophet of Islam said, "Whoever among the Christians and Jews hears of me, but does not affirm his belief in what I brought and dies in this state, will be amongst the inhabitants of hell." Thank you very much. This is my reply. If you have other question, you can ask me any question.